My dissertation is called Phronesis in the Seminary, Learning in the Midst of Action. But what my project is actually about is that the Assemblies of God is one of the least educated denominations in the U.S. And my dissertation is about whether or not that's actually a good thing. You see, to understand a little bit of my tribe of the Assemblies of God, if I could explain it to you like this. This is an academic, but if this were a room full of AG pastors and I asked the question, is it a good thing that we're one of the least educated denominations? Half the room would say no, and the other half of the room would say yes, it's a good thing that we're one of the least educated. And the reason for that is because the AG is a movement of people that has grown from 0 to 63 million in just over 100 years. The AG have a strong commitment to evangelism and a firm belief that Jesus is coming soon. In some sense, there is no time to go to seminary because Jesus is coming that soon. But some of this stat can be explained by the AG diversity because AG is significantly more diverse than other U.S. Protestant denominations, and much of that diversity is represented by ethnicities that do not, on average, acquire as much education as Caucasian demographics, and so that skews the statistics. Now, to those who think it sounds awful that the AG is undereducated, first I would ask you, well, what does it mean to be well-educated? And to this I turn to Alfie Kahn, who says an educated person is someone who has the habits of mind, hand, and heart to adapt to whatever life might throw at him or her. And what is the point of more education? A quick, easy answer would be just to say more effectiveness. But more educated denominations have declined significantly, while the AG has experienced continued significant growth. The AG is one of the few denominations still growing in the U.S., and yet it's one of the least educated. And how well does seminary, this education, prepare people for ministry? 42% of those surveyed by Barna say that seminary does not prepare people well. Now, to be fair, those who actually did attend seminary viewed seminary a little more highly than those who had not actually attended seminary. Furthermore, I commissioned Barna to do a personal study because of this, and to study specifically the pastoral effectiveness compared to the level of educational attainment. And these 6 charts here, you don't really have to look at it that much, because what it shows is almost exactly the same results regardless of what educational level the pastor had. They had the same results, and that was shocking to me. That changed the direction of my study. And as my studies continued, I visited the pioneer of AG distance education, Global University, and sat with the president, Dr. Gary Sievers, and I asked him, why can't we show statistics to show how education is affecting pastors? And he said, his answer, and I agree with it, is it's a calling thing. Has God called you to get the degree? And so this is where that word, that fancy word, phronesis, comes in. Phronesis is what I believe the seminary needs to implement. It's an ancient Greek word which means the rule, exception, finding. The seminary should realize its current results of the system it's producing and figure out which rules to break to change its system. Because I know for me, my graduate school was incredibly formative. So for those who are called to get a degree, what would a degree, what type of degree would be more attractive and accessible for these AG pastors that would focus specifically on effectiveness? So for my artifact, I created a new master's degree. This master's degree would be unique because it would be the only degree I could find combining these 4 elements: biblical, graduate, online, practicum. There was not one university I could find that had all 4 of those things together in one program. I want to highlight a few elements of this degree. First thing is practicum. Obviously, this is what it makes sense to me. Why go to seminary to learn ministry? You learn ministry in a church, but you learn theology at a seminary. But practicum is what helps bring that type of learning alongside the seminary. This hands-on learning is familiar at the undergraduate level, but most universities I talked to thought it was impossible at the graduate level. Barna's research identified, furthermore, these common topics that pastors most often feel ill-prepared for ministry after they graduate seminary, and this should become the new curriculum that seminaries use for their graduate program so that they don't feel ill-prepared for the people problems that are best learned in practicum situations. Secondly, competency-based education. This means you're testing for learning, not seat time. Competency-based education revolves around the idea that the student must show competency and a skill to progress, not just that they've sat in a class long enough. The third major ingredient is a personalized lead mentor incorporated into the degree. This is how the AG pastors like to learn already, pastoral mentoring. So what if we had these potential future students who are interested in learning and are already learning from these pastors and incorporated that type and just paired it inside the degree, and they could learn from their lead mentor inside their degree. Currently, these ideas are being implemented at Northwest University under their new Masters of Leadership Studies with a cognate, fancy word for minor, in ministerial studies. It will be possible for pastors to earn practicum credit while working on the master's degree, and this will save them time and money with the hopeful launch of fall 2020. And so that's it. That's where my dissertation ended. Paper written, artifact done, but then I had my own moment of phronesis and looked at which rules could I break even more. And so I looked at this project and this work and began to cut it up. And so what we came up with the church and my team that I was working on, it was a new way for these AG pastors to get credentialed, where we took everything that is typically associated with the church-based Bible Institute, took out the accreditation, and that allowed us to charge pennies on the dollar for it, and then we put it on an app. Many of my pastor friends love learning, and they just didn't view the seminary as the place where they were going to get it. So we put it all, and it changed the entire user experience of what the pastor would go through as they're trying to learn and further their effectiveness in ministry. We launched 6 months ago today, and now we are serving students in over 20 states. Our youngest student is 14 years old. Our oldest student is 84. We are approved by the district council of our denomination and the general council. And most of all, we have a transfer agreement with the university, so students who do these online app-based courses can actually earn real college credit for doing it. Thank you.